going to speak English. It's not really my cup of tea, but it's a rule. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to welcome at the Centre Pompidou this Open Conversations Conference. I think that it is first a great event. I think that there are 31 galleries, 40 exhibitions, 40 exhibition spaces, and 99 artists. 99. We could try 100 next year. But I think it is also an original event because it's an original format. It's not a fair. It's a real journey through galleries, doing exhibitions, showing artists in the spaces. This is the core business of the art dealer. And I think that this event helps to enhance the quality of your real job. From my point of view, the role of the art dealer in contemporary art is essential. There is a crucial difference between old and classified works and works of contemporary art. It is the lack of normative benchmarks. By definition, contemporary art is unlimited, indefinite. The artists carry on creating. It's difficult to prevent that. And new artistic forms frequently change the hierarchy of values. And so the talent of the good art dealer is the ability to identify the future quality of the work. So the art dealer every day take bets on the future. And you participate together with our institutions in what the sociologist Nathalie has qualified as the increase of objectivity. That is to say, the process whereby a cultural object, sometimes unidentified, gradually concentrates the signs of appreciation which eventually make a work of art. I'm conscious that art dealers and museums do not have the same approach and the same obligations. But I think really that we complement one another. And also that we are facing the same challenges. For instance, the development of these new actors, the contemporary art collectors who are involved both in the production of works and support its distribution. It's a new challenge, and I think that it is some kind of new relationship between institution, collectors, artists, and galleries. But I think that that will be the essential topic of your conversations. Two words in conclusion. First, I would like to thank Marion Papillon because it's really a good job, a dangerous job, and she has a spirit of resolution, of creativity, which is perfect to deal with contemporary art. And secondly, I want to thank all of us because you give to Paris a spring touch. You give creativity, you give vitality to this beautiful town. And so you prevent some kind of nightmare for us, which is that Paris could become a belle princesse endormie dans son patrimoine. Good works, and bravo à tout le monde.
I introduce you to Llucià, who is the director of Talking Galleries.
Merci Marion. Bonjour. Good morning to everybody. We are really proud to be today in Paris with this partnership between Talking Galleries and Choices. Open conversations allow us to think, to better understand what is happening in the art world regarding new ways of collaboration, regarding the relationship among galleries, collectors, artists, and museums. Talking Galleries was born in Barcelona in 2011, and the reason was because galleries share so many moments, the fairs, the openings, but we did not have a specific space to discuss our profession, and in particular, our experiences with collectors. This concern led me to the foundation of Talking Galleries, conceived as a platform for industry professionals, focusing on the discussion on key issues for the gallery sector at a time of economic crisis, with a specific mission to help, to provide service to the entire artistic ecosystem. The project is now growing. In the next year, we'll have editions in Seoul, in Dubai, Sao Paulo, London, and Venice. Paris is one of the most important art capitals in the world. This is a reason why we are so excited to be here. We are looking forward to sharing our views, to be part of your gallery weekend. Now, more than ever, we need to share our thoughts, cooperate in our strategies, and be very aware of our weaknesses. We think that we have a very interesting program. We have almost 200 attendees. This is a success in itself. A special thank you to the speakers that come from abroad. And I also like to thank some of the members of our advisory board who have been part of these projects from the very beginning, like Georgina Adam, the core of the board. And I would like to thank Melanie Gerlis for her new engagement with the project. Allow me to thank the organizing team for their dedication and compromise. Sol Garcia, our general coordinator, and Marie from Choices. And finally, I would like to thank Marion Papillon, who has invited us to share these open conversations. Many thanks, Marion. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Thank you.
Well, just a few more words before we get started. Thank you very much to be here. I'm really glad to welcome you to our joint program with Talking Galleries. I have initiated Choices 4 years ago to promote Paris' vivid art scene and its galleries, because I felt that it needed to give voice to galleries in parallel to institutions and art fairs. Our goal is to gather galleries in order to work collectively, and I must say, with success. Within 4 years, Choices has established itself as a strong label, especially in organizing Paris Gallery Weekend each year during spring. This event, which is about to start tomorrow, is our key event, but over the time, Choices has become more than just that. It has become a tool designed to promote modern and contemporary art through diverse actions. We have implanted a year-round program of talks with l'art en direct, or innovating partnerships to reach new audiences and new publics. We believe in creating unique moments around art. Therefore, we asked Talking Galleries to collaborate with us, and I am really glad that Llucià Homes accepted to organize these talks with us. We set up this program to reflect on the state of collecting today and to place the galleries back at the center of the debate. We think that it's a very relevant topic to deal with today globally. Therefore, it seemed to us very appropriate to hold this event at the eve of Paris Gallery Weekend. Collectors, professionals, and gallerists from France and abroad could thus be many for this special day. It was very important to us, both Talking Galleries and Choices, to be hosted by a public institution like the Centre Pompidou, and I really would like to thank Serge Lasvignes personally for this hospitality. This highlights the intricate links between the public and the private sector, and furthermore between institutions and galleries who happen to work together day to day to sustain creation, set up exhibitions, promote artists, educate people, and become platforms of meeting and reflections. Finally, I would like to thank all of our partners. First of all, the Ministère de la Culture and who made this program possible also. Mairie de Paris, who supported Paris Gallery Weekend and Choices from the beginning. And of course, the Comité Professionnel des Galeries d'Art, which has always been behind us. And of course, I would like to have a special thanks to all our partners as AXA Art, Le Meurice, and La Rendirect. I am now honored to give start to this program and leave you with Georgina Adam, who will be moderating the first session of the day. And she will introduce, of course, our first panelist. Let me introduce Georgina Adam. She is a renowned art market journalist, is art market editor at large for the art newspaper since 2008, and art market correspondent for the Financial Times. Georgina Adam has been writing about the art market and the art in general for 25 years, and also lectures on the market and related subjects at Sotheby's and Christie's Educational Institutes. She's the author of Big Bucks, The Explosion of the Art Market in the 21st Century. So thank you, Georgina, for being here. You have been close collaborating of Talking Gallery since the project started in 2011. She sits in their advisor board, as Llucià says. And last but not the least, we are very glad to have Georgina kicking off today's talks, in which has been here our own hometown for almost 20 years. So welcome back in Paris, Georgina.
I'm extremely pleased to present this first panel. It's wonderful to be here in Paris again, which I lived in France for 20 years. My children were born in France, so I have a very special attachment to France. But we're not talking about my children, we're going to talk about collecting. And the subject of our first panel is going beyond the collection, how to approach the future of collection, because we've seen, as we have seen already, there's enormous changes of the nature of collecting and also the works of art, which have moved very often from something completely tangible to non-tangible works of art, which is, I think, something that will be interesting to discuss. So with us to have this conversation, we have Sandra Hegedüs, sorry for the pronunciation, who is the founder of SAM Art Projects, and we have Nathalie Vallois, who is a founder and the director of Georges-Philippe and Nathalie Vallois Galerie. So we're going to start by asking Sandra to tell us a little bit about her parcours, how she arrived here, and how she started, how she came to France, because she was not born in France. And then after that, Nathalie will tell us a little bit as well about her own personal voyage, and then we'll move on to a conversation between the two of them.
Thank you, Georgina. So I'm from Brazil. I've been in France for 26 years. I started collecting, but very quickly, it was not enough for me. I wanted to take a more active part, more hands-on, and follow the creative process. So in 2009, I created SAM Art Projects, which has two main actions. One is the residency program, where we bring artists from all over the world, outside of Europe, to come to France for a residency program, and we develop with them new works, which will always be shown in a show at Palais de Tokyo. The other axis is the prize, which is an annual prize for the French scene or European scene for artists who want to develop a project outside of Europe. So, for example, right now we have an artist from Zimbabwe. He is here since March, and we will be opening his show in Palais de Tokyo in 3 weeks. He is not a young or never heard about artist. All these artists are confirmed artists where they are, but we don't know them. So Gareth Nyandoro has represented Zimbabwe at the Venice Biennale 2 years ago. He has won the Financial Times Emerging Artist Prize last year. But still we don't know him, but now we will. And Massinissa Selmani, who won the SAM Art Prize last December, is now developing his project between Nouvelle-Calédonie and Algeria, which will be shown in February at Palais de Tokyo. So he has a year to do his project outside of Europe.
And Nathalie, tell me.
So we have opened the gallery with Georges-Philippe Vallois, my partner, in 1990, September 1990. So it's quite a long time ago. And we are still in the area we have chosen at that time, which was not so common. We are in Saint-Germain-des-Prés. And since we started, we have oriented our activity on two specific, because it was very specific at that time, working with historical artists, especially from Nouveau Réalisme and from the French avant-garde of the 60s, and making the first show of contemporary artists in France. That could be foreign artists like Keith Tyson, Paul McCarthy. We did the first show of Paul McCarthy in France in 1995, for example, and also French artists. So we have been always working on that, on both level, and which is a specificity, but also which is very rich. Because it's very active, very how can you say that? It gives some energy, to both, in fact. And we opened last year a second space, and we thought about making a division between this historical activity and this very contemporary activity. But finally, I think we are going to mix again in both spaces.
So, Sandra, what do you think is the most positive aspect for you of having founded SAM?
Just one thing. You know, I arrived in France in September 1990.
You didn't enter the gallery?
Not when I arrived from the airport. I did not, but you know, I came eventually.
Okay.
So
the question was, what is the most positive aspect of founding SAM?
the most positive aspect is really being at the core of the creative process. From the idea until it happens at Palais de Tokyo, and it's like giving birth, and then the child is not yours anymore, it's for the world. It's fantastic to be following the artists very hands-on with what they do.
And having a gallery, which is also what is very exciting, of course. And when I said in the first part that we like to do the first show of an artist in France, which is that we are following the process of a show, but also the process of thinking. And we have always relationship for most of the artists we're working with. We know them for the beginning, almost 15 years, 20 years, and we start working with very young artists. But what I want to say now about this idea of we can make it very theoretical, but I think the human part is the most important. I mean, we can talk about collection or view of the collection or having a special, activity and try to theorize that. But I think you can't theorize that because it's really the person that make it, that make it important, and that is at the beginning of everything. It's not a view, it's a person first. And how did you start? So how you just said, well, you told how you start, but how did you feel? What did you want year by year? Is there something that improved? Is there something that changed in your relationship with the artist, with the institution?
In the beginning, I was quite naive. I thought, like, whoa, but the project, it was quite clear to me what I wanted to do from the beginning. I wanted to give visibility to these guys who were like stars in their countries, but nobody knew them here. a guy like Enrique Oliveira
We did the
that
project.
you introduced me to. People didn't really
Brazilian.
a Brazilian guy. I remember you insisted so much that I come to the gallery that I had to see this guy, and yeah, and I was like, "Ugh." But I have my own opening with Adrián Villarrojas. But okay, I'll go to the gallery the next day, and we sat and we talked, and thank God you insisted, because it's your role as a gallerist, not only to sell or to, but put people in contact, like you did with Enrique, who was a star in Brazil, that you had the courage to show in France, although he was not known at all.
And
that-
he's making, I don't know if you have seen the installation he made, but he's making some incredible installation, in situ installation with wood, and that are total environments.
Yes, and he came in residency thanks to this introduction. I proposed this artist to the committee. He came to France, and we made a marvelous installation that lasted 4 years at Palais de Tokyo.
Yeah, 4 years. Originally, it was
4
not that,
No, it
but
was-
finally it stayed 4 years.
Yeah, and thanks to that, now he's a mega star. I mean, it was so photographed. I think it was the most photographed
Yeah.
piece of Palais de Tokyo.
No, but it's because it's very unusual work.
Very unusual.
Nathalie, are there other collectors that you know who have had a similar reaction and this desire to move from collecting personally to moving towards collecting in the same way and supporting artists in the same way that Sandra has?
As it relates to what I said, in fact, since the 90s, all the event concerning contemporary art and collectors has been probably multiplied by 10, 20. So there's much more activity, much more collectors, and much more people involved in the contemporary art. But after, yes, there is more collector, but there's not. But there's not someone like Sandra. So of course there's other collectors that are that we have some partnership, that have some partnership with some institution. But each time it's different. Each time it's a different story, because it's really about story. For example, when we talk about collection within company, because our system, everybody is saying that our system is not so good in tax system and all these kind of things, but it's not. France is a good area for collectors, and even in company, it depends on the person who is running the company, that wants to invest, but not more intellectually than money. And it's not a question, it could be a question of tax, of course, don't be naive. But it's first the question that the people inside and the people that are responsible in the company want to be involved in the art. Otherwise, they do they have some other direction.
Sandra, how did your first contacts with institutions work? How were they easy? Were they difficult?
Really, it was very funny. I just met people at dinners, and I said, "Oh, you want to be part of my committee?" Or, "Oh, can I do a show at Musée d'Art Moderne de la Ville de Paris?" And because I think I'm not from here and I don't have the codes, I just invented the way to do it, and they were so astonished that they said yes. And so, voila. And people would say, "But how did you manage to do your shows at Palais de Tokyo or Musée d'Art Moderne or with the Louvre when I did the Tuileries project?" And I said, I just asked. So.
But once you'd asked, was there then a lot of administrative paperwork and so on?
No.
Was it complicated or?
At all.
And it was facilitated by the people you met? How was it?
I think it was unusual because nobody had done it before, and people are not really doing it after. So, and there was a space for it, I think, and the project was very constructed. So it was not as if I was by myself, like the bored housewife who has a cousin who does aquarelle and say, can I show my cousin at the museum? No, it's not like that. I put together a very strong committee, and together the choices we make are unquestionable. We managed to bring to Paris, to France, the best of what's going on in the world to give to Paris and to France. So, two things. One is that it brings back to Paris the spirit that I think was pre-war, that people from what we call the French scene was not just French people, it was Fujita or Modigliani or Picasso, people coming from all over the world, but it was in Paris that it was happening for them. And I want these artists coming here, like Enrique or Taro, it's from Paris that they go, you know. Adrián Vilarrojas, who's a star right now, nobody knew him when we did the Tuileries project. So, you know, it happens for them and then they go.
Yeah, and it's true that I mean, you choose in a way, or you asked by chance Palais Tokyo, but Palais Tokyo is an incredible place for that. I don't know if it could be different in another place, in another institution, but I think that Palais Tokyo also is quite free, and we had this experience with Taro Izumi very recently because...
Can you tell us a bit more about this? Because we've mentioned Enrique, but we haven't talked much about...
but I mean, both, in fact, is the same structure, but the two experiences have been totally different. Totally different. And not because one is Brazilian and one is Japanese.
Also.
I think so, yes, you're right. But so Taro Izumi, who is a Japanese artist, finally stayed in residency, thanks to Sandra. And then Jean Deloisy, who was crazy about his work, then accepted and wanted him to do some more propositions. So it becomes, and it became a huge show.
2,000 square meters.
Yes, which was absolutely not like all the experience you have had with some art. So again, you have a context, you have a structure, but it can be something totally different. And in fact, it became something really crazy as an experience also, because we were part of the performance done at the Palais Tokyo.
I wish I had pictures to show Nathalie up to her knees in a hole with shoes coming out of her knees.
And then making the arrangement, it was a little bit like Lost in Translation, the film, with old Japanese talking and 200 people, les figurants, I don't know how you say it in English. Extras that were coming to do a performance, but they didn't know the performance they were doing. So I had to explain, but nobody knows what was going on. And this is the nature also of the artist. Taro Izumi is a fripon. Comment on peut dire ça en anglais? Un fripon. Okay, so...
Maverick?
Yeah, yeah. So, and then it was an incredible experience, totally different from the one from Enrique, but also you made it possible. Because if you didn't want to do that, if you didn't want to add, let's say, frankly, more money to the project, then this would have never existed.
Because it was more expensive than you expected.
Much more.
Yes, because in the beginning, he was chosen to be part of a group exhibition. So he would have to make some pieces in a room, that's all. But then Jean was so crazy about him, Jean Deloisy, that he said, no, we give him 2,000 square meters, and all of a sudden, something had to exist in those 2,000 square meters. And it's all new work produced in Paris. Everything.
So Can I ask the dirty word about money? How do you finance
The
all of
dirty
this?
The dirty word is me, mostly. You know,
Yes.
it does happen sometimes, not for Taro really, because it was quite crazy, and the projects were sprouting even as we were talking. Something new was like, you know.
But nobody knew, including us,
Yeah.
close to the artist
Yeah.
since many years, what was going to happen. So each time we were talking to him, and again, he doesn't speak English and French. We have a good relationship, but I don't know how. And so little by little, things were increasing. We were also, of course, partner of the exhibition. And little by little, Sandra and us were learning, and also Jean de Loisy, what was going on. But we couldn't say...
It was evolving
Yeah.
every day. Ideas were coming, new stuff was coming, and we accepted. Because that's how his process is. Because it's very important also not to be rigid. You have to... Artists have their own way, and we have to be adaptable if we want to do a good show.
Of course.
Yeah. But for Enrique Oliveira, for example, as he is much more structured, even his work, it was very easy, for example, because I knew I was going to go over budget. So I asked for a construction company, Bouygues, and they gave us wood. They gave us wood. So, of course, I was paying for everything else, and the people, and the residency, and the airplane tickets. I mean, it goes really far. But that was just one less, something less that I would pay, which always helps.
So there you understand that it's not a question of tax, or it's not a question of having a better situation. It's really a particular situation, human situation, relationship between the institution, galleries, you, the artists. And I think that to make these big projects, to make, you have to, it happens like this. It has to happen like this.
And of course, for me, I can't make a bad project. I'm not going to restrain the artist and say I did a mediocre. Well, he came in residency and we made a so-so project just according to. I go crazy too. I want Sam Art projects to be known for doing crazy, extreme, fantastic things we haven't seen before. It's for sure. It's my reputation is there too. Not only the artist.
You've talked about two projects in which you brought artists from outside France and showed them who were well-known outside France, less known here. Can you perhaps explain to us a couple of projects that you've done with French artists who have gone in the opposite direction?
Yes, these are the prize, the Sam Art
The Sam Art
Projects
Prize.
prize. Yes, we have given since 2009. The first one was Zineb Sedira. She is a fantastic artist working with Kamel Menour, and she did her project in Algeria. It was about transmission and memory, and it was really beautiful. I'm really proud that it was bought by the Guggenheim, so it's part of the Guggenheim collection. I mean, for me, because I'm totally 100% non-for-profit. I don't want anything. I don't keep anything, and I don't ask for anything. But I'm very proud when when the gallery sells to a big institution, and I know it's going to be kept. Another one of the artists that won the prize, Bouchra Halili, who did a project also in Algiers, she was bought by the MoMA. So I mean, it's great.
And how do you select? Do you have a board? Do you have a committee? Is it you?
The prize is different. For the residency program, we meet in April. Each member of the committee presents an artist, and we will vote, and we will get two that will come for the following year. For the prize, I think today it's online. If there are any artists here or gallerists who want to tell their artists, we open for the projects today, I think, and until September 15th. So we get 100 projects a year, more or less, that the artists send. They have to have a gallery. The gallery is super important because on the prize project, we can't be there. It's not like he's building something in a studio right there. No, he's traveling. So we need, the role of the gallerist is super important. We work together. He has to be over 25, and he has to have a project outside of Europe.
The project has to be outside.
The project. So we've had Ivan Argot from Perrotin. He has done his project in Colombia. We have had Angelica Marcoul. At the time she was working with Suzanne Tarasiev. She did it in Ukraine, in Chernobyl. We've had projects, Luigi Beltram from Jus. He did it in Peru. Many artists from Nathalie's galleries have been finalists of the project. So far didn't get, but it's, Laurent Pernaut from Odile Luisman, he did it in Brazil. So,
And there is something I want to say at that point, is that since the 90s, and in the 90s, the situation between institution, collectors and gallery were absolutely not the same. There was, which is not finished since, which was finished not more than 10 years ago. There was not a fight, but we were not an opposition, but let's say that institution and galleries were not working as they are working now, like this. And there was also less show-off of collectors. I mean, I don't have the year of the show at the Musée d'Art Moderne de la Ville de Paris of Suzanne Paget about private collection, but it was a moment, and it was very. It was a step, because at that time, you wouldn't find so much experiences with galleries, collectors, institution. Things were more. There were less, much more less, and much more less obvious. Much less obvious. No, I think this is.
And why do you think there was that? And what has changed? What has changed this? I mean, it's true they were two different worlds, weren't they? And there was quite a wall between them. What has caused that evolution?
You know the rest. Do you know the answer?
Less money, I think. I think the state was
You're right.
Very powerful and did everything, and everything was state controlled, which is not good. Which is not good, because we had many meetings with the Ministry of Culture to understand why a French artist at same career level as an English, American, or German artist is not. His work is not the same price. Why? Is he worse? Not at all. He's just as good. But in France, for many years, the only one buying art was the state. It was like the FRAC and the CRAC and the SLAC or whatever. I mean, a lot of museums and not many collectors. The collectors were much stronger in the States, in Germany, even in Belgium.
Yes,
and they
but the state was not the only one.
But
there were some collectors, of course.
There were some, but not like in the States, for example.
But the proportion was so less
So
in terms
less.
of collectors.
Yeah.
It's true
But
in
not
terms
elsewhere.
of...
But not
yeah,
elsewhere.
but it's true. No, it's true that... But
and now there's less money.
For
So
sure.
the state
What do
allows...
you mean the state, there's less money for art?
The culture gives less money to institutions. For example, it's fantastic here in Pompidou. Now there's a big circle of friends of Pompidou. I am proud to be part of the international circle. We give money to buy art. And it's important.
And it would be interesting to know, when did that begin? in the
Not
institution?
not
a
very
long
long
time ago.
not a
It's
long
not.
time ago.
Is it 10 years ago? Is it more
Yes.
than 10 years ago?
Probably not more.
Yeah.
Not more. I think the PAC started first. When did the PAC start? Anybody from Pompidou?
Okay.
The PAC
We will
started
know it
first, and the
later.
international circle is very young compared to the Tate or the MoMA. They have been doing these boards, asking collectors to give money to buy works for the institution way before.
Yeah, but it's difficult to compare all this country because the cultural system is very, very different. And the history also is very different in terms of culture. But I think that we are quite now, and since 10 years, in a good synergy, in a good movement.
Very good.
And I think also it will continue. Being optimistic with the recent election, always.
Yes.
Always. So, I think the movement that has started not a long time ago, again, I think it really takes some big things, not more than 10 years ago.
So part of the subject of our panel is the future of collecting. But in a way, you're not collecting. You're no longer, you said you never buy the works, you never acquire the works that you support.
Oh, I acquire a lot of
you do
works.
acquire.
No, she's a big collector also.
As
But
well.
there
But-
are two distinct
Yes.
things.
Yes.
Samar Projects is a non-for-profit in the service of the artists, mostly, to help them get visibility in France and in Europe, because if you do a show at Palais de Tokyo, you're sure to be seen by a lot of people. And this is independent from my private life, where I buy work all the time, which has nothing to do. I mean, I'm very free, and I buy things that have to do with my story, and, you know.
And do you buy, one of the things I mentioned in my introduction, and I don't know, do you buy works that are in today's intangible works, for example, performances, or do you always buy tangible works? Well, I'm thinking of the future of collecting, and we're seeing, Tate just opened the oil tanks just a few years back for performance.
I buy sentences. I bought a sentence by Douglas Gordon. It's my sentence. It's my own. It doesn't matter, really. I buy what I love, and I'm not really worried about market, really. I mean, the work has to correspond to my desire and to the story. I think the collection is kind of a portrait of the collector, and this is how I feel. I mean, if you go to my place, it's very coherent.
And I can confirm, as I said before, that you can't theorize. I mean, each person has a very personal, but I shall say also intimate way of collecting that gallerists don't know. But it's true. You just said it. It's even if it's sentence, even if it could be very conceptual, then most of the time it corresponds to something which is intimate and which correspond to the person. This is very personal. And I would add that the gallery also choosing the artist is also something very personal. Lots of people are asking, but what is the line? How do you choose artists? What kind of artists do you prefer? And most of the time, it's about personal choice. In fact, it's about choice. And but there is a line, and the line in us, it's us, as the line of a collection, I think, is yourself.
You risk also, because when you
All the
chose
time.
Taro,
It's crazy.
no, but even before, you know.
Yeah, it's crazy. and yeah. But I like craziness sometimes, and I have some. We have a good balance between craziness, between irrational, and some more historical and. I wouldn't say powerful because it's a different translation, but some more stable. Stable permit, this is what I was talking at the beginning, is stability can allow the craziness and the irrational.
So I'm going to open up to questions. Could you please wait for the microphone? Is there a mic for questions? Because we're being recorded. If you would like to ask your question in French, that's fine. But I'm sure that you have many questions for our wonderful panelists. So just put your hand up, please.
Hi, thank you very much. Melanie Gerlis here. I have a question for each of you. Sandra, it was really interesting to hear about the project that started with Nathalie. And I just wondered how often, for Sam, how often does the conversation start with galleries? And then Nathalie also, I just wondered, some galleries who choose their artists, it doesn't seem very personal. Sometimes it seems much more of a market choice for some successful galleries. And I just wondered if there's room for both types to coexist, or how difficult that might be in today's market. Thank you.
So, the choice of the artist is not with a gallery. Because it's the committee who brings the artists, okay? So people can go and see biennales or documentas or whatever, and they see an artist and say, I'm going to propose this. But as I said before, galleries can say, look at this guy. I mean, he is super interesting, and he needs a boost. What Nathalie did with Henrique is an example, but Brazilian gallery Luciana Brito did it for me with Hector Zamora, who we had in residency. I didn't know his work. It was the gallerist who said, "You got to see this. He's going to be good. I think you should propose him to the committee." It happens like this. Galleries can propose. I don't know if they talk to any other members of my committee, but it happens to me all the time.
And about the market, of course, I'm not going to say that we have just this taste outside of the market and things are irrational and beautiful and no. But no, the reality is we have this consciousness of the market with working with historical artists. But we would have never worked with an artist we don't like or we don't respect the work, or respect is not the good words anyway, that we don't think is important. So since the beginning, since the 90s, with the question of taste, but also with this idea of showing what is important for us, we have worked with historical artists. And then, no, we don't choose the artists, the young or the contemporary artists, because they are hot on the market. And then, but saying that it doesn't influence at all our choice, no, I wouldn't be. But we have this market idea since the beginning, not as a strategy, but in fact it helped us to be what we are now. And the years since the 90s have been very different. 90s have been very difficult. And I think it's because of this choice that we are still here and that we can do these irrational and craziness things when we like it.
Are there other questions? There's one in the middle, there's three. So we've got in the middle, which was the one I saw first, then in the front here, and then one behind.
Hi. how do you do to export painting, for example, from abroad in France? Because I'm from Reunion Island, and it's very difficult for all artists who are living in Reunion Island. For example, you spoke about New Caledonia. It's very difficult to export the arts in France, for example, because there is a lot of taxes in our system.
You mean in the shipment, in the way of
customs
taxes.
Custom tax, yeah, a lot of customs. How do you think? How do you do to export them? And I think at this time we are in a global market, and it's very hard for artists from abroad, and especially overseas, to bring their painting, their sculptures in Europe. And for example, Reunion Island is a French department, but unfortunately there are a lot of freins. I forgot.
Okay, but I don't know.
Obstacles.
Obstacles, yeah.
I'm not sure I'm going to respond to your question because I don't think I have the ability to speak about the level of taxes. But the only thing I can say is, as a gallery working with many foreign artists, we have no choice to import, to export, to make shows, to sell works. And I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm not the one that is doing what I know in terms of shipment is shipment and taxes and import and export. France is not a bad country for that. Absolutely not. I'm not talking about Brazil.
I know.
Or South
Brazil
America.
and South
Really
America is the worst country for taxes and import and shipment. Really, in France, can I say that we are not bad?
You are not bad. I'm from
Thank you.
Brazil. It took me 8 months to get a chair.
And even the prices, the export prices, the export taxes, I don't know if it's answer to your question. I'm sure not, but this
But
is
is
what I
it
said.
France or is it the European Union that you're talking about? Because is there some harmonization?
I think it's France.
It's France, right? Yeah.
But it's not bad. Really, it's not bad.
So we had a question here, Marek. Yes.
This doesn't relate to import taxes, but I think it's a subject when I can comment on that, because I'm from Germany and we have a lot of discussion because it's export of heritage goods and so on, and VAT, and a lot of middle-class galleries are really complaining about that. But this is a political thing. Maybe this is not something we should discuss deeper here, and we maybe cannot do it because we are not consultants. But I'm more interested in asking you, Nathalie, if you, because I have also a science background, and we always described galleries as aesthetical risk arbitrageurs. Aesthetical risk arbitrageurs. So it's a bet on a future taste. So would you consider what you're doing as a business? I'm speaking now about the business part of your work. Do you bet on a future taste with your commitment to certain artists? Do you think that this will be a mutually acclaimed thing? Is this a driving force?
Not exactly, because the words are not the same. I would say my work is to make it as a future taste. So I have to work for that. I'm not betting on an artist like, okay, this one is gonna have the big, the big all success or prize. No, I think the work is important. So, and it's a real business because I like to sell work. I like to convince people to buy. I think it's a real engagement. And for collectors also, I think that the real engagement with art is also to collect, to buy. And but I try to do my best with the artists, with the collectors, with the institution, and then to say, well, this is going to be important, and this is going to raise, and we make it. We have to make it.
So you make Future Taste.
We try to make it. We try. Sometimes we succeed. Sometimes, I mean, nothing is like this. Even the story of a gallery, I mean, it's just... I could say, if you take a diagram, you could say it goes like this. But in fact, I have more than sensation that it goes like, ooh, like this.
And can I have a question for Sandra?
Yes, quick. Generally, the rule is one question, but quick
it's just
question.
Because when we speak about future collecting, I've been on a panel in Basel where it was about video art, and there was a notion that in future collectors divided into two groups, and one group will be some kind of a producer. So you put money into producing the artwork, what you actually do, and others are more consumers of art, what you privately do. Would you consider yourself as a producer in this sense?
Not in the sense, I think, like this, because I am, of course, financing the production, but I am not selling or keeping. So I am just being a patron, but not a producer. Because when you say producer, there's a financial aspect that being a producer means I'm getting something out of it, which I am not, 100%. But of course...
What is the revenue then? Pleasure in doing this, as you said?
I don't get anything, I get no revenues from it because it's a 100% non-for-profit. There are no revenues from this at all.
Okay.
Thank you. We had a question at the back there. I think you have the microphone. And then one on the left here. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Bonjour, je vais parler en français parce que je suis un peu plus à l'aise. Je voulais savoir comment vous voyez l'arrivée d'Internet, par exemple les réseaux sociaux, les sites de vente en ligne, dans cette nouvelle façon de collecter demain. Je voulais savoir comment vous percevez ça.
Yeah. So I'm not debating about internet. Internet is part now of our way of working. So I think I don't have to have a special view on it. It has to be our part of work. So the real thing is there's nothing but a show in real of an artist. So as a gallery,
nothing replaces
the physical. And we have the truth is that internet, of course, is a big part now of our work, everyday work, administrative work. And there are some good websites where you can, in a way, sell by internet. But this represents, and I don't think it will in the future represent more than 10% of the sales of a gallery, because of course it can be we have some people buying, but very little. Even if things are developing, there's nothing can replace a collector entering a show and seeing what's going on, or a collector that I've heard about a show from another one that would come. And this is the chance we have, because also it's not just internet. I think not in the idea of the opposite, but auctions is our also big challenge for the future, more than internet, I think. The internet is part of our activity. It will develop, but not replace. But auction, it's more complicated.
You spoke about the market there, but I think perhaps as well your question was about making artists better known as well. You were talking about the réseaux sociaux, social media. So perhaps would you like to also address how the internet has impacted on making artists better known throughout the world?
Yes, of course. I mean, most gallerists and collectors are traveling all the time. We're coming back from Venice, going off to, I don't know, Barcelona or Documenta, or, I mean, there's something going on every week, and we are taking pictures and we are posting, and people are seeing, and they're saying, oh, cool, I mean, she likes this, what is it, you know?
This corresponds also to the big multiplying I was talking about, but even this event idea of a multiplying idea of shows, of event, of collectors is also, internet is part of that. The réseaux sociaux, the network, is also part of that. And now images, people are relating much more. It's another, it's not a market, but it's a big part of our...
It's a visibility thing.
Yeah. It's a part of the work.
So we had a question here, and then another one there. So we'll take this one first, which was the first I saw.
I hope I'm not going to. I hope. Anyway, I want to thank. Sorry, I want to thank Choices Paris to bring talking galleries in Paris, because I've been following this site for a long time, quite a while. I have a question to Sandra and maybe also to Nathalie. I've been working in the art world for quite a while, almost 20 years, 7 years in the United States, 5 years in Saint-Germain-des-Prés, and now I'm happy to say that I opened a gallery in the Marais 5 years ago. And of course, I did see the market, how it changed, and how the collectors have been approaching galleries, and the way it used to be a rendezvous, for example, every Saturday. If you want to be surprised, you used to walk around and discover artists. And now I feel that it doesn't exist. We have to do art fair to meet the new collectioners. And as a gallerist, because of budget, I don't want to. I'm very careful of not to spending too much money, etc. But I was wondering, for example, is it possible for to Sandra, for example, do you walk around or wander around, or do you only go to art fairs?
I very rarely walk around. Very rarely.
Voilà.
Because I don't have the time.
Yes.
But when I go to an art fair, everybody's there and I can go around. And I know that when you go to a gallery, it's more curated, it's a solo show, yes, and it's much more interesting. But we don't have the time. Because if I go in a gallery, I spend 3 hours talking and having coffee, and I don't go to the next gallery.
That's true.
I have the intention, and even with Jessie, who works for me, I said, let's get at least 2 days a month where we do the galleries. We did it once, because we didn't go anywhere.
I will add something. Don't be so pessimistic.
Yes.
Because, no, Sandra is very special. Mm-hmm. It's true that more and more collectors are doing art fairs, but then when you open a gallery, it takes time for the people, and it takes time also for you, and more than 5 years to build your own network. Mm. So, of course, more and more people go in art fairs, but there are, of course, some collectors that are very often coming to the space, very often. I mean, she's perfect, but you should come more to galleries. No, of course there are some collectors.
That's why Marion is doing the choices.
No, of course, and there's a big part of them. I mean, most of them goes to art fairs, but lots of collectors like the gallery, and this is a network you just build year by year. So we are an old gallery. Mm. This is why we have all these collectors.
We come to openings. We come to.
I'm not going to.
Yeah,
je vais pas te critiquer. C'est toi-même. Je pensais. I thought that you were going to galleries. In fact,
I'm not going a lot because I don't have the time.
Because I have the sensation that you come always, but maybe
no, I come. Yes, because then there's something else. we at one point we end up going to the same galleries. This is the network thing that you said, that we know, or that we have artists that we follow, because we don't have the time. I don't know how many galleries there are in Paris. I have no idea.
Marion might know.
How many galleries?
How many art galleries?
In France, it's 2,000.
Okay.
No, but
So-
the Comité Galerie d'Art represents 250 galleries in France and mostly in Paris.
Okay.
So it's at least 200.
So it's really difficult. I mean, can you imagine? Like, we could not work or take care of the kids if we had to see all the galleries. So we do go to galleries. Very rarely we go to many galleries because it's complicated with the time.
And as you said, you are in Le Marais. There's many collectors that are doing very regularly the tour
I
of the
think
gallery.
this is time to give a shout out to Choices. What do you think about this sort of an event? When you have everybody
Very
open
important.
for the whole weekend, there's a sort of feeling that let's go and do it. Does
And
that make a difference?
That's what I was going to say. For example, I get invited to other gallery weekends out of Paris, and when I go, this is when I go see the galleries, because it's like the city. It's transformed into a mega fair, and we go and we come out and we don't know anybody there, and and we go and we really go see the galleries. So it's super important to do this in Paris, because one, people like me who don't go a lot, we can go, but people come from outside of Paris, and they're going to be going around the whole weekend looking at galleries, collectors from all over.
And of course, it's important also proving, the synergy, because it's not just about making coming collectors, but it's important, very important, but it's to create some events and to create some synergy during 1 week. Of course, it's always important.
So we had another question that was somewhere here. There we are.
Hi, Sandra. In certain ways, Sam Art Projects is building bridges between cultures and countries. And I also feel we're in a time where walls are being built up literally and figuratively. So I was wondering if your organization's mission has changed because of this, or if you're doing more public programs.
The whole thing about Sam Art Projects is breaking walls. We've had artists from India, Indonesia, South Africa, now Zimbabwe, Brazil, Mexico, all over the place. And when these guys come, they connect with people here, and this connection stays. So when they go back, there's a thread that stays. And this network has been building since 2009. It's like one big family. I'm leaving this panel here, going to my place where we're doing a lunch for Gareth Nyandoro, and I'm having 10 people at my place. Why? Because we provide the artist with the network. I have collectors coming from Belgium today at my place, from Africa, from Italy. Also journalists and people from the art world. Cécile must be here somewhere because she's leaving with me. I don't know where she is, but she works for Piazza. So it's a network and a wall breaker for sure, and nothing is going to change it. Nothing.
There's a question right at the back there.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Joseph Alan-Shea. I can attest to Sandra's generosity and support for artists. And we thank you for that, and it's very important for France. I'm not from France, but I've been living here for 4 years. And you spoke earlier about, it was you, Sandra, who spoke about the relationship between collectors and the state, and how the state was more powerful and maybe less powerful now in the acquiring works and supporting artists. I've found, as I said, not being from here, the French state to be incredibly supportive and fantastic. But actually my question would be more for Nathalie, because you've been working in Paris since the 90s, and I was wondering if you could maybe tell us a little bit about how that has changed. And I can't imagine there was no collectors in the 90s supporting artists, and all the money was coming from the state.
That's not what I was saying.
No, sure. Making the exaggeration to open up a possibility for you to mention how that has changed, and if we're talking about the future of collecting, how in France we can work with the state and also collectors, and how might that have changed, and how we can go into the future.
I don't know if I will answer to your question, but I think we're always making some paragon with other countries. Again, we are more or less than these countries. But what I said before, what I'd like to say is, what is the future is to continue to cultivate, to cultivate our specificity, which is very important. So at one moment where there were too much state in the 90s, as collectors, then people were saying, oh, but there's no private collectors, blah, 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 blah. And then when the private collectors enter, then we were saying, oh, but the state is going back. And again, it's difficult to have some theoretical. I think the important thing is to really look at our specificity in France, wherever you come from, that everything is from the same movement, everything is increasing. Art is much more worldwide because of the image, because of internet. The money also is much more worldwide. So concentration, talking about the big collection now that are in Venice, for example, or things, the art world is moving with the rest, of course, of the economy, with the worldwide situation. And talking about future, I think it will increase. That again, we will have some period, oh, it's difficult, oh, the prices are crazy for young people, oh, it has been like this always. But I think the good thing is to think about our specificity and not think about, oh, we are like more or less than this country. We continue on that.
Can I just ask, standing in for you in a way, but the role of the state? The role of the private collector is growing, but is the role of the state diminishing? I think that was the sense of your question.
I don't know. I know I've talking with the American artists, talking with British artists, talking with Brazilian artists. State has never had the importance and the status it has had in France. So again, this is really a specificity. States, of course, the role of the states in France is much more less, but still, it is important. We have a Ministry of Culture. There's not so many countries where there is this perennity of a Ministry of Culture. So it represents something. Again, it's a specificity.
And how do you see it would evolve, though? Do you think that the evolution will be... there was always this 1% for culture in France, which was never agreed.
I think it will stay.
Yeah.
It will stay. I'm not sure it will increase a lot, but at least it will stay and increase a little bit. But I think also, as there is much more synergy between institution, galleries, foundation, much more private initiative, then again, it will be another specificity. And not talking about always the state. It's different now, I think. But it's still very present compared to other country.
Next question. So we have one here and then one here. And we have two more questions, so one there and one there, because Sandra has, as she said, she has to leave on time.
Gotta cook that food.
It's me? Thank you very much for the conversation because it's very inspiring. I'm from China, so I know that because China, you cannot really count on the government to give you budget for culture. So the new tendency is a lot of private individual or enterprise who built museum. There are a lot of this type of new private museum, and it become a driving force for the art scene, especially contemporary art. But eventually, I don't think how many of them are really non-profit, because I think the goal is to make the gallery profitable or a museum, because I think no one is a Jesus. Even if you are a billionaire, one day you will finish your money because it was very costly to maintain and to pay and to well, you know the cost. So I would like to ask Sandra, what is your advice on to sustain a non-profit structure to help the artists and to make it run, to make it continue? Because maybe this is some advice needed in the Chinese market as well.
So sustainability.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sustainability.
Yes, it's not easy because it depends on the. I mean, in my situation, it depends on my will to give, because I give my money to this project, and I'm not being given anything. So maybe one day I'm gonna get fed up and say, I don't want to do this anymore. Why am I doing this? So far, it's been going okay, but it's true.
More than okay, you went crazy, I think.
I'm going crazy, but I'm not sure my kids want to do this, and it depends really on me. So once I'm not there, it's not going to be there anymore, really. I cannot force my kids to continue this because it's not their passion, it's mine.
And I will take our last question because, as I say, Sandra has to leave, has to go and cook. Probably not literally.
My question is for Nathalie, in reaction to a question that was asked before about how to recognize artistic quality. And I was wondering how, in this regards, is your relation as a gallerist to curators? What does it consist of, and how important is this relationship?
I have some very important relationship since we started with some curators. Again, they are part of our world. What is much, it's true I didn't talk a lot about curators, which are very important since the beginning. And the truth also is when we began, there was also this, again, not adversity, but this separation between institution, curators, people from institutions that are curating, and the relationship now is very different. So I have some very good relationship, and I love some curators, and I don't have some relationship with others. But again, it's a very important part of our world. It's
true. We haven't mentioned.
Sorry, I haven't mentioned because
les grands absents, in fact.
But we are working with them, and since the beginning.
And so are we, because of course, people from institutions. My whole committee is formed by people from institutions, and they are proposing artists. They have eyes. They're going everywhere, and they are seeing sometimes artists that we don't have the opportunity to see.
But we are galleries.
So I want to thank very much our panelists, Sandra and Nathalie. I think it was a really interesting conversation. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did, because I found it very interesting. So thank you to Sandra. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you at 2:30 p.m.